Today is the big march for life. And as you guys know, life is not only my number one issue, number one, it's many of your number one issue too. What does our government have to say about it? What does Trump say about it? What does JD Vance say about it? What does Ron Paul say about it? What does, Mike Johnson say about it? We've got a ton of video to show you to put your head right down in there like you went on the March for Life.
With the inauguration on Monday, our country faces the return of the most pro-family, most pro-life American president of our lifetimes. Now, this is the man who delivered on his promise of ending Roe, giving us a monumental, earth-shattering decision in Dobbs. The man who appointed hundreds of pro-life judges dedicated to defending the constitutional liberties of all Americans. And the man who supported pro-family policies like doubling the child tax credit, which happened during his first administration and which we're going to do so much more on in the second administration. Now he's back, and we're going to do it again.
Is Trump the most pro-life? How can he be the most pro-life when he says he's okay with some abortions? You know, he's went after Ron DeSantis. We're going to hear from Ron DeSantis.
Here is what you should be asking your elected officials to do on the issue of the sanctity of life. Show courage in defense of the unborn. That's what we need from the people that we elect to the office. The sanctity of life does not depend on poll results. It doesn't depend on which way the wind is blowing. It's an enduring truth, and it represents the foundation of our society, which in our original founding document, which we will celebrate next year, the Declaration of Independence, declared that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, beginning with the right to life itself.
He said Ron DeSantis was crazy for trying to zero out abortion and having a ban for it above 4 weeks and all that. And Trump, so he took the issue off the platform by saying, look, it's a states' rights issue, which is what he did by returning abortion to. I am an abortion abolitionist. I don't want some. I don't want a few. I don't want any. I don't believe people have a right to do that. And I'm in opposition to Trump on some of that. So why would I say Trump is the most, easily by a mile, the most pro-life president we've ever had? Remember, I voted for Ronald Reagan, George Bush, probably even Romney and Dole. I mean, go all the way back. Trump is still the most pro-life. Why? Because it doesn't have to do with your ideology. It has to do with what you do. Your actions are more important than your beliefs often in politics, and none more so than Trump, because he gave us 3 Supreme Court nominations that overturned Roe. That's the biggest significant abortion topic in the last 50 years. In my lifetime, I couldn't even imagine it being overturned. Well, now he's ended government funding of abortions around the world, many of them here in our own home, and now commuting the sentences and pardoning pro-life people in prison that were imprisoned by the last regime. We're going to go farther, though, because Trump is indeed the most pro-life president of my lifetime, and I'm not talking about what he believes. Okay, I'm just going to show you, this is what it's like at the actual march. Look at all these nice people. No one's screaming, no one's tearing down statues, no one's, they don't have piercings, and they're not running around like dogs on leashes for other people. They're tasteful, they're not breaking windows, they're not spray painting buildings like the left does. Look, they're wonderful, well-adjusted family people.
Today we stand united, not just in belief, but in conviction that every human life is sacred. We march in remembrance of the millions of lives lost.
Amen.
And in steadfast hope for a future that protects the most vulnerable among us, the unborn. As a physician, I took an oath to do no harm. As a father and a grandfather, I've witnessed the miracle of life firsthand. My commitment to protecting life isn't just personal, it's rooted in both science and principle.
Amen.
Life begins at conception, and I've spent my time in the Senate fighting to protect the right to life. For example, I've worked to end taxpayer complicity in the abortion industry. No American should be forced to fund the destruction of innocent life. That's why I introduced the Defund Planned Parenthood Act to stop the flow of tax dollars to an organization that performs abortions. The Supreme Court's Dobbs decision to overturn Roe v. Wade exposed what many of us have long known. It was bad law from the start. But that victory wasn't the end of this fight. It was a new beginning. Now the responsibility falls to us to build a culture that cherishes life, supports mothers, and empowers families. This movement is bigger than any one bill or court case. It's about changing hearts and minds. It's about standing firm and speaking for those who cannot speak for themselves. Let me be clear, I will not stop fighting until every child, born and unborn, is guaranteed the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Together, we can build a future where every life is welcomed, valued, and protected.
That is principled. That's what I believe. This is why I don't believe in certain exceptions, because whatever happened to whatever caused you, your mom to be impregnated, whatever happened to bring you here, you don't have less of a status as life, inherently deserving life and liberty. And we don't make those distinctions. Like, an adult who was formed by a doesn't have less rights than anyone else who is traditionally formed through marriage, let's say. So we don't do that for the unborn. I don't do that for the unborn. I get it. There's people that disagree on this. I certainly get the emotional argument of the trauma of it all. I get that too. I just don't agree with it. Ultimately, it's a principle thing, and it is my values, and it's but look, that's so rare. What we're really talking about is the idea of using abortion as birth control. That would wipe out probably 90% of that activity. And so Rand Paul here really underscores that. And now this is just another angle that I found on that same march, just to show you how big it goes all the way back. They're guessing at least 150,000 people are attending this event. Again, smiling, happy. We're not against abortion so much as we're for life. They're for something. They're championing it. And after all, what kind of person is against life? Now, here's an expansion on that J.D. Vance speech again.
And I want beautiful young men and women who are eager to welcome them into the world and eager to raise them.
Make more babies. Make more babies.
And it is the task of our government to make it easier for young moms and dads to afford to have kids, to bring them into the world, and to welcome them as the blessings that we know they are here at the March for Life.
Amen. This also counters a major narrative from the left. My dad was taught that lie that the world is overpopulating, and that's false, that there isn't enough room, that there's going to be massive hunger. That spread throughout the 60s. It's a terrible teaching, totally a lie. And now we have a population crisis in some areas of the world where whole societies are going to collapse from a lack of children coming through and being able to fund and take care of their own elderly. So it's a collapse of civilization. We need lots of kids, many more kids.
Now, it should be easier to raise a family, easier to find a good job, easier to build a home, to raise that family in, easier to save up and purchase a good stroller, a crib for a nursery. We need a culture that celebrates life at all stages, one that recognizes and truly believes that the benchmark of national success is not our GDP number or our stock market, but whether people feel that they can raise thriving and healthy families in our country.
Amen. We're pro-people. Pro-life is pro-people.
And that brings me back to where we stand today. Earlier this week, President Donald J. Trump stood in the Capitol Rotunda and took the oath of office, becoming not just the 45th, but now the 47th President of the United States.
Yes.
And I know all of you helped. With the inauguration on Monday, our country faces the return of the most pro-family, most pro-life American president of our lifetimes.
That's true.
Now, this is the man who delivered on his promise of ending Roe, giving us a monumental, earth-shattering decision in Dobbs. The man who appointed hundreds of pro-life judges dedicated to defending the constitutional liberties of all Americans. And the man who supported pro-family policies like doubling the child tax credit, which happened during his first administration and which we're going to do so much more on in the second administration. Now he's back, and we're going to do it again.
And he released the 23 pro-lifers that were thrown in prison by the Biden administration. By the way, if Kamala Harris won, it's entirely possible that you and I would be thrown in prison just for saying that we're pro-life. They would have massively expanded that evil policy. Now, here's Mike Johnson, and I'll bet you didn't know that he was a unplanned pregnancy himself.
I was born in January 1972. It was almost exactly 1 year before Roe v. Wade became the law of the land. I was the product of an unplanned teen pregnancy, and I am so eternally grateful that my mom and dad ignored all the people who told them to just take care of that problem, and they chose to embrace life and to have me, the first of their 4 children. If they...
Amen.
It's a simple fact, a very simple fact. If they had not done that, then I would not be here. And I often wonder who else we have missed and what those individuals might have contributed to our society and our world, but they were just never given the opportunity. I often wonder when we as a nation will face that reality and turn our hearts back to the self-evident truths that we boldly proclaimed in our nation's birth certificate in 1776, as was said earlier, that all people are created equal and that all people are endowed by our Creator with the right to life. Let's keep working to ensure that more eyes are opened, that more people will embrace those timeless truths,
Amen.
and that all children will be allowed the incomparable gift of being born. Thank you for being part of this movement and this noble cause. God bless this march, and may God bless the United States of America.
Amen, my people. What a beautiful day. You know, another thing that you see me mention a lot is how leftist policies are really, they're terrible for blacks. Their policy of abortion has performed abortions on blacks at a much higher rate than white unborn. And what that means since Roe started, and this is why we accuse Margaret Sanger actually of racism, there's a disproportionate number of blacks that were aborted than whites. That is, more of them are missing today. Now, what's weird is if you look at the family that raises you, you'll tend to vote like your family's values. And more Democrats have abortions than Republicans. So it's strange because Democrats have actually wiped out over 45 million of their own potential voters. When he talks about who's missing, you're missing a bunch of black Democrats. That's what Democrat pro-choice policy has done, even to their own. And that's why we accuse them of the worst. They're the worst for even Democrats. Democrat policy destroys women, destroys minorities, destroys their vote, destroys their life. Never put an X next to a Democrat. I'm going to say that till the day I die. It becomes truer and truer every day, and life is just one issue. Now, here's a real cool speaker. I like the argument that she makes for life.
Don't. Science is on the side of life.
Amen.
Science shows that life begins at the moment of conception and fertilization. From that time on, We know that a new human life in the womb possesses its own genetically unique DNA and is different from its mother and father.
Amen.
Because of modern tech, don't.
Now, we know that because of science. If you wipe out that baby in the womb, there will never be another one like it. I don't understand why the left would think that all people are interchangeable. You're not. You have a unique DNA. You have a unique soul. If I was to kill you in a car wreck or whatever, you wouldn't come back. There is no other you. I just think the pro-choice position is so wrong because it denies a basic fundamental thing that's proven by science. There's no duplicate DNA of you out there. You have your own footprint, your own signature. When that's gone, there will be no other you. When I'm gone, there'll be no other me. And every baby that is wiped out, it's not like they're going to get another chance in this life. That baby will never exist again in this life. That's what we protect. That's why we call it the sanctity, but it's also the ultimate sanctity of individualism, of the individual. A belief that we're not interchangeable. Okay, then this is Matt Walsh over at the Daily Wire backing me up in this tweet with J.D. Vance saying, I'm the pro-life generation. By the way, his generation, when he gets into office in 2028, he will be our very much most pro-life president. Here's Matt Walsh from the Daily Wire. Reagan, both Bushes and their vice presidents all hid in the White House during the March for Life and refused to be associated with it. Trump has now sent both of his vice presidents to appear and appeared himself in 2020. Most pro-life president we've ever had by a mile. And now I've got a very special treat for you guys. Trump showed up on a big screen this year and made a 4-minute address to the March for Life. Watch.
Hello to everyone at the March for Life. It's a pleasure to speak to you from the beautiful Oval Office. That's where we are right now, the magnificent Oval Office. And thank you for turning out once again to show your extraordinary love and compassion for the unborn. Each year, Americans of every age, color, and background travel to our nation's capital by the tens of thousands to stand up for precious little babies who cannot stand up for themselves. I am proud to be the first president ever to have joined you in person. As you know, this annual march started 52 years ago on the first anniversary of the disastrous ruling known as Roe v. Wade. That unconstitutional decision took power away from the states and the voters, kicking off 50 years of division and anger. But thanks to your tireless work and devotion across 5 decades, that historic wrong was set right 3 years ago. I was so proud to be a participant. 6 courageous justices of the Supreme Court of the United States returned the issue to the state legislatures and to the people where it belongs. It became a vote of the people. In my second term, we will again stand proudly for families and for life. We will protect the historic gains we have made and stop the radical Democrat push for a federal right to unlimited abortion on demand up to the moment of birth and even after birth. Think of that, after birth. And some people want that. Can you believe it? We will work to offer a loving hand to new mothers and young families, and we will support adoption and foster care. We will protect women and vulnerable children. Under my leadership, a reformed Department of Justice will finally investigate the radical left attacks on churches and crisis pregnancy centers, and we will bring perpetrators to justice. We will get them to justice one way or the other. I will also end the weaponization of law enforcement against Americans of faith, and I'm releasing the Christians and pro-life activists who were persecuted by the Biden regime for praying and living out their faith. I just signed that document, and they're being released. One such American was Paula Harlow. At 75 years old, Paula was sentenced to 2 years in prison after praying outside of a clinic. That's why she was sentenced to 2 years. That's what happened under the Biden regime. In her sentencing, the judge mocked her Christian faith while her husband pleaded to be thrown in jail with his wife, fearing she would die alone behind bars. This week, it was my honor to grant a full and complete pardon to Paula and many others who were the victims of this horrific weaponization. Never again will religious persecution be allowed to happen in America. To all of the very special people marching today in this bitter cold, I know your hearts are warm and your spirits are strong, because your mission is just very, very pure, to forge a society that welcomes and protects every child as a beautiful gift from the hand of our Creator. Thank you for never losing hope and never giving up. Thank you for your tremendous support. God bless you, and God bless America.
Wow. That speech Trump gave just gave me chills. That is the most pro-life speech any president has ever uttered from his mouth. Our whole lives, we've been fighting for this issue. And it's a different year. It's a different thing under Trump. He will go down in the history books as being the single biggest factor in overturning Roe v. Wade, which, like probably in our country's history, is probably the worst legislation to ever exist, or constitutional problem to ever exist, going all the way back to the Civil War. It's actually worse than slavery. These are incredible times. I don't even have words to really describe what I'm feeling and seeing in culture. Do you smell it? Let me know in the comments below. Don't you feel it in culture? It's changing. I mean, I'm just shocked that I'm alive to see it, that I'm looking around and seeing it. I never thought it would happen in my lifetime, guys. I got to finish this video, but I'm in shock. I'm Doug in exile. Thank God for Trump.